Wow. Thank you so very much for that, everybody, and thank you for being here on this evening. It's because I'm such a loud individual that we needed such a loud and upbeat song for this presentation. Thank you so much to everyone that is joining us here for this session for how to be a club coach, sponsor, and mentor. And as I share my screen, I am now going to bring up my PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to, the keynote presentation that I will use for this seminar. Again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Austen Canonica, the Club Growth Director of District 47, Southeast Florida, and the Bahamas. And for those of you that don't know me, it's a little bit of a weird last name, Canonica. The way I like to get you to memorize it or remember it is it rhymes with harmonica. So those of you that have never said it before or have never pronounced it properly, that's the way you can say it. But sticking with the superhero theme, you can consider me your Professor Xavier for this session, for those of you that like the superhero theme of X-Men. And we're not going to go too much into the minutiae of superheroes because not all heroes wear capes, confreres. Every single one of us can be a hero if we choose to be. For this session, I'm going to cover several topics that center in and around being a club coach, sponsor, and mentor of a club in Toastmasters International. I first want to remind everyone of some of the mission statements of our district and of a club. I then want to talk about those specific roles aforementioned, that of the coach, sponsor, and mentor. And then I want to describe the resources that are available at your disposal, the teamwork that's involved in making any of these appointments happen, and the next steps in your journey toward becoming a distinguished Toastmaster or just supporting clubs that may need you. Let me remind everyone of the district mission statement because it ties in so integrally to this session. The district mission of any Toastmasters International district is we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. And of course, excellence is one of the core values of Toastmasters International, along with integrity, service, and respect. Excellence is something that we strive for in everyday life, but we don't always accomplish it in our everyday tasks. And I want to start by talking about helping out clubs in need prior to getting to building new clubs, which is how we're going to conclude this session. But I also want us to remember the club mission statement that we hear at the beginning of every single meeting, because this is also imperative in understanding how we could fulfill these roles and support clubs in a greater capacity. The club mission statement of any Toastmasters International club, of course, is that we provide a positive and supportive learning experience in which members are empowered to improve communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And if anywhere along the line, any of our clubs are not achieving our mission, we always need to be reminded and look back to the core reason why we are Toastmasters. And it is to, again, build people's self-confidence, make them feel more confident in who they are and what they're doing. And our conduit of getting there is typically through the public speaking forum. I also want to remind everyone of the leadership structure of Toastmasters International and how the members are at the top of the pyramid and those serving fall below the member. What we're going to be discussing is how a club coach, sponsor, or mentor could support the members and the clubs, which are at the very top of the leadership pyramid. And as we go down toward the bottom, we get to world headquarters and all the other leaders that are attempting to support our clubs in all that they do. But just want to remind everyone, again, the members are at the top and the clubs are right below that. Therefore, that's really going to be our focus for this session. How could we best serve our members and how could we best serve our clubs? In case you couldn't figure out from the title of this presentation, I'm going to be discussing three major leadership roles in Toastmasters International: the club coach, the club sponsor, and the club mentor. And I'll be using these cheesy graphics that you see on the screen here to remind us of where we are at each time. I want to start by talking about club coaches, and I want to define what the club coach responsibilities are, who qualifies as a club coach, and how do clubs themselves qualify for coaches. And then I'm going to ask everybody here if you've ever done these roles before. But let's just, in case you need a refresher on what the club coach does, the responsibilities of a club coach are as follows. First, build rapport with that club. Also, observe and analyze the club meeting environment. Helping clubs develop, I got to move my screen here. You want to help clubs develop good habits and also make sure that they're developing members that are sustainable long into the future. In addition to membership, we want to make sure that the goals of the club, the educational goals, distinguished club performance goals, are being reached as well. And ideally, we're instilling some form of enthusiasm, fidelity, and a shared sense of responsibility. In so doing, that when the club coach has successfully completed their appointment, the club will not fall back to needing a club coach. What are the qualifications of a club coach? A Toastmaster who is not a member of that struggling club upon appointment. And for the club that is eligible for a coach, this is a club that has fewer than 12 paid members, and the coach is not a member of the club at the time of appointment. It's at this time that I'd like to ask our facilitator, distinguished Toastmaster Anthony Ellie, to start a poll. And I want to just ask everyone, who here has been a club coach before? So please answer that poll. We're only going to do about 10 seconds. We're not going to take up too much time to answer the poll. Have you been a club coach before? You should know if you've served in this capacity before, unless you had a severe bout of amnesia at some point. All right, we can go ahead and close the poll, and hopefully we'll be able to view the results of the audience members here. How many of us have been a coach before and have not? Excellent. The majority of you here have not been coaches before. However, we have a quarter of the room who has been a coach before. There will be time, especially at the end of this session, for general discussion. And therefore, I implore you, if you have served as a coach before, please get some anecdotes and allusions that may be coming to your mind that may be valuable for this session. We would greatly appreciate them. I'm going to attempt to close the poll myself. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much, Anthony. A few more polls later on just to make sure that everyone is still attentive and paying attention. So again, how do you become a club coach? You have to be a member in good standing, and you're not a part of that club when they're eligible for a coach. And then also, in order for a club to need a coach, they have a membership deficit, meaning that they have 12 or less members. We're going to go through some more definitions as we go here, but in general, that's what a club coach is, and that's how a club qualifies for a coach. Why would I be a club coach? Why would any of us take on this really important role? Well, there's a tremendous opportunity for you to develop team building skills in this capacity. You're working with an existing club that's been in existence before, and you're trying to help them get back to where they are when they chartered the club. We also have the opportunity here to expand our leadership experience. And being a club coach is definitely a fruitful prospect that upon successful completion, I guarantee you, you will have expanded your leadership experience in this capacity. Also, this gives you the opportunity to increase proficiency as a facilitator or a negotiator, a club coach, where you will be facilitating discussions and you will be negotiating with persons to make sure they're getting the most out of their Toastmasters experience. In so doing, you are also developing your diplomacy skills. Not all of this is going to be easy. We have different personalities. Clubs have different cultures. Therefore, it's really important for anyone serving as a club coach to be diplomatic, to be working through tough times, to make sure we're working together as a team and we're not losing sight of what the mission of the club is. Also, it's a great opportunity to share expertise. We all have things that we're great at, and we all have differences in what we are good at. It varies. Therefore, this is your opportunity as a club coach to share your expertise with confreres that are willing to soak up that information and act on it. It also helps you invest in the future of Toastmasters. We all probably joined for ourselves to improve our own public speaking prowess and leadership skills. This helps you invest in the future of Toastmasters. You get to rekindle some old flames, maybe bring back some former members that used to be a part of a club, bring in new members to a club, or just reinstill that sense of why members joined in the first place, which through being a part of a club that has experienced some challenges, it can be tough to maintain that high level of motivation. And finally, and last, certainly not least, is when you serve as a club coach successfully, that is one of the key components of earning a Distinguished Toastmaster Award. You don't have to be a club coach, but it is one of your optional additional leadership exercises that you may undertake and achieve your Distinguished Toastmaster Award. How could you be successful, though, as a club coach? Do I get appointed and I automatically earn the credit at the end of the year? Not so fast, confreres. You do have to show results as a club coach in order to earn the successful title of being a club coach. So how do you complete this? Prior to the conclusion of the Toastmasters year with which you were appointed, we want there to be an increase in membership. I'm going to talk about some of the minutia involved with what this means here, but in general, we want to bring the club back to what's referred to as charter membership strength, and that's a minimum of at least 20 members. There are specific instances where you don't need to get a club to 20 members. You need to get them to an increase of 5 members from their base of membership, and that sounds like a wordful if you're not familiar with those terms. I'm going to cover that in a subsequent slide. But the first key component is increasing the membership of the club. After all, that is how the club became eligible for a coach, is they dipped below, they have 12 members or less in the club. One of your key goals as a club coach is to increase membership. The other is to ensure that they're achieving their educational goals in the Distinguished Club program. We want to make sure that they have at least 5 goals, meaning that they're distinguished at a minimum in your term as a coach. This is a big responsibility, but it is entirely possible because you're working with an existing club that has existing members, and they're familiar most of the time with membership and with distinguished club performance. Therefore, there is still education that goes on here, but you're working with people that have theoretically been through this before or have experience, at least, with being a Toastmaster. That's how we succeed as club coaches. Now let's dive into some of those definitions to make sense of what this all meant that I described before. The term charter membership means that the club has a minimum of 20 members. Like I will cover in a little bit, when you charter a brand new club, they need to have a minimum of 20 members in order for the club to charter. Therefore, the term charter strength or charter membership may be thrown around, and that means we want to get at least 20 members in a club. The term base membership also means your Toastmasters year-end membership numbers. If I ended the year on June 30th of 2020 with 25 members in my club, the base membership number for the next Toastmasters year is 25 members. Anytime you hear the term base membership, it just means how many members did we end the last Toastmasters year with, or how many members did we begin this Toastmasters year with. And the term eligible clubs, or a club that's in good standing, means that you have 8 or more members. Once a club dips below 8 members, they're considered ineligible, and that means we need to get that membership number to a higher number, and there's a greater sense of urgency. Typically, when you start seeing membership dip from 12 and below, that means that at some point this club may become ineligible if we do not do something about it. There are plenty of clubs that can get back to where they need to be on their own, but it's an opportunity for a club coach or club coaches to serve those clubs and help them get to where they need to be. To make sure we're all on the same page here, I encourage us to use the chat for this, and Anthony could help me verify the responses in there because I may not have the ability to view the chat without making a mockery of all of my settings here. So let's do some practice about what this all means. If a club has a base membership of 25 members, how many members must that club conclude the year with to qualify for the Distinguished Club program? And it's the same as ending the year with those membership numbers. Do we have any responses in the chat? I saw one. Let me see if I can just try to see the chat.
You have 20 from Cindy. Someone said none. Some say 25. Another person said 20.
The correct answer is 20. Thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate it. Since the club already is at charter strength, it has a base of 25 members. By the end of the year, they need to have a minimum of 20 in order to qualify for the Distinguished Club program. This is something that not a lot of members know, and it's great for us to remind our clubs that not only is it critical that we're submitting our educational goals and we're completing our additional goals toward Distinguished Club performance, we also want to make sure that our membership numbers are where they need to be. If you started your year with more than 20 members, you need to conclude with 20 at a minimum in order to qualify for DCP. Let's take a look at another scenario, and we're going to practice the exact same way. This club has a base of 14 members. How many members does this club need to conclude the year with at a minimum, in order to qualify for DCP? Any brave volunteers? I know we have some distinguished Toastmasters in the room. I know we have some experienced Toastmasters here.
And fair, it seems that maybe the way the question was posed has thrown some of us off.
Oh,
so
I apologize, everybody.
Yeah, so I've seen 19, 19, 18 need 6 more members. Some are saying they need 19 or 5 plus base.
That is the correct answer. I apologize if my question is confusing. Now I'm remiss that I did not specify earlier to qualify for DCP is really the end result of our membership numbers at the end of the year. And it's important that we have our membership numbers where they need to be in order for our Distinguished Club performance goals to count. But that answer is absolutely correct. Because this club has a base of less than 20, we use that rule that they need to get 5 more than their base. If that number, in like the next example, this club has 18 members, how many Toastmasters do they need at the end of the year? The answer is 20. The rule of 5 plus counts, but only if that number totals less than 20, which we had here. So this is an instance where they have less than 20 members and 5 plus is still less than 20. They don't need to get to 20. This club needs to get to a minimum of 19 members. And in the instance of where we have less than 20, but 5 plus would be an increase of 20, we need to get back to 20 members. In general, if we just keep that number 20 in our mind, it's a pretty good number to shoot for. Because even in the scenario previously, in which the club only needed to conclude the year with a minimum of 19 members, we still want to try to get more members into our clubs. And not just because, but because there's a natural attrition within Toastmasters. And if we're not continually replenishing our membership, the club may not be in good standing anymore, or in worst case, the club may eventually dissolve. That's what we're trying to avoid here. So I can cover that in greater detail, and if that's confused you, trust me, I get confused over it when I think about it. But in general, as part of being a club coach, we want to try to increase the amount of members that are a part of a club. And in terms of DCP, or the Distinguished Club Program, these are the goals that any club may achieve. You'll notice down at education, they're still talking about the legacy system, or the traditional education system, as it was so called. And that's just to give you a frame of reference of how it transitions into pathways. We're all on pathways now, and those are the educational goals we will be focused on. 6 of the educational goals are 6 of our Distinguished Club Program goals are education related. The members completing their pathways projects and submitting their levels for completion. There are also 2 goals directly tethered to membership. If you were able to increase membership at your club, that you have the opportunity to gain 2 goals from increasing 4 members and increasing another 4 members. There's also 1 goal tethered to training of our club officers, and there are 2 trainings at our Toastmasters Leadership Institutes throughout the course of the year. And there are 2 goals associated with administration, paying our dues on time, and submitting lists of our club officers at the conclusion of the year on time. Any 5 of these goals, any combination of them at a minimum, is what a club coach would need to support in order for that club to technically qualify for them to earn their club coach credit. Of the 3 that we're going to discuss today in club coach, mentor, and sponsor, the club coach is the one component where there are specific results tethered to it in addition to the effort that you put in. So effort is really critical here, but we need to see it in results in order for the club coach appointment to count. Oftentimes I get asked, what happens if the club does not achieve these goals? There's no detriment here. There's no mark on your report card, so to speak. You will have the ability to coach the club again if you'd like to, or serve as a coach for another club that is in need. So there's really no detriment to you not serving successfully completely in this role in terms of making it count. But I guarantee you, if you put in the work and you follow some of the resources that I'm going to show at the end of the entire session here, you will help your clubs achieve their individual goals. There's an expression that's given at the end of the first class club coach presentation that I'll share with you at the end, the link to that resource. And it's from Hippocrates. Everybody has a doctor. Everybody has a doctor in him or her. We just have to, I can't see because of the way I have everyone's images here. But Anthony, help me out with the quote. I can't read
You
it.
just have to help it in its work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes. In other words, you can do it. For those of you that have seen any Adam Sandler movie, you know, Rob Schneider has said that in a few movies. This, I believe, is from The Waterboy specifically. Anyone can do it. Really, if you have the willingness to coach a club, you can do it. It's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. These are not easy appointments. However, if you successfully serve as a club coach, you are making a major difference for a club that is in existence, that wants to be sustainable long into the future. I'm sure some people have questions specifically about club coaching. I want to make sure I get through the educational component of this, and then at the end, I'd like to have more of an open discussion and open forum. If you do have any specific questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, and I'll make sure that Anthony reads them to me at the conclusion. I want to transition now into forming a new club to talk about our other two roles, and that goes right back to the district mission. We build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. As we were supporting existing clubs as a club coach, the sponsors and the mentors specifically work with chartering and supporting brand new clubs. There are lots of types of clubs that could form. You could have a corporate club that forms at an existing organization, and maybe membership is restricted to members that are already part of that organization. There are also community clubs that may be meeting in open spaces that are available for anyone to join. We also have advanced clubs in which maybe there is some sort of a restriction, like you must complete 2 levels in pathways prior to joining, or the competent communicator used to be the kind of line of demarcation for advanced clubs in the past. But there are great advanced clubs out there that focus specifically on the power of evaluation, and it's a forum for more experienced Toastmasters to meet. There are also specialty clubs like gavel clubs, in which there are members that typically could not join in Toastmasters, like they're less than 18 years of age, or perhaps it's a specialty club like a gavel club that meets in a prison, something where there is an extreme stipulation and there are only certain types of people are able to join those clubs. But not all clubs are the same, and each of us belongs to at least one club, and I guarantee you all of our clubs are different in one way or another. That's why the prospect of growing new clubs is really such an exciting one, because we are bringing new members to the family that are going to have their own culture and their own style, that are going to compete in speech contests, and they're going to be participating in TLIs. These are future district leaders that could fill various roles, etc. So I like to preface by talking, when we talk about growing clubs, there are types of clubs, and they're different, which means that they're going to have different needs and different circumstances in which they would actually charter. Who exactly are these club sponsors? The club sponsors are specifically responsible for organizing the new club, setting up the regular meetings, and completing the paperwork and charter presentation. That's the official to-dos of a club sponsor in accordance of Toastmasters International. In layperson's terms, the sponsor is really going to champion the chartering of the club. And there are a variety of ways that a sponsor could get involved. You can either get started right from scratch. You helped really grow this club from either talking with people, spotting potential locations, working with organizations to charter the club, or there could be a lead that's already brewing and percolating, and you've identified yourself as someone that wants to now step in and be a part of this process up until that club actually charters. The sponsor is responsible for ensuring the club successfully charters to the point of when they successfully charter, and then they have completed their role in this capacity. Similar to being a club coach, as a club sponsor, you could also develop team building skills, expand your leadership experience, increase your proficiency as a facilitator and negotiator, develop diplomacy skills, share expertise, invest in the Toastmasters future, and oh yeah, it's a credit towards earning your Distinguished Toastmaster Award. Some of us out there, they knew since day one they wanted to become a DTM, as it is coined, and the only way you can get there is if you achieve certain things, certain aspects, take on certain responsibilities. Being a club sponsor is one of those optional components that you may decide to undertake as your journey toward becoming a Distinguished Toastmaster comes to fruition. Some general information. Club sponsors could work on leads, and Toastmasters International defines 2 styles of leads. We have leads that are inbound, meaning these are people or persons that are looking to start a Toastmasters club, and they came to us. They knocked on our door and they said, I'm interested in becoming a Toastmaster. How do we get this done? And those are always great because the interest is already there. There is some sort of a value proposition that is being perceived, and those leads are really great to work on. Then is what's referred to as outbound leads, and this is when we go out of our way to generate new leads. A club sponsor may inherit an inbound lead and work on that lead, or they may be very proactive in going out and finding a new club. We have two types of Toastmasters out there. We have Toastmasters that are looking for the inbound leads to fall in their lap, and then we have other Toastmasters that are actively looking to start clubs on their own. Both are possible, but I guarantee you that if you're active in searching for outbound leads, you could really get something moving a lot sooner than potentially waiting for an inbound lead to come your way. However, we get a ton of inbound leads on a daily basis, and several of these actually do wind up brewing and percolating into existing clubs. And as a club sponsor, you're very involved with the prospect turning into the actual, going from I'm interested in Toastmasters to I'm a Toastmaster. And that's really one of the huge avenues of becoming a sponsor, is you are part of the essential percolation of becoming a Toastmaster. Club sponsors could also get involved with providing information. Every once in a while we get a lead and they're just curious, how much does it cost? How frequently do you need to meet? Are there any opportunities outside of a club meeting that are available to us as a member of this organization? As a sponsor, you'll be directly involved with informational meetings where we do a lot of listening. We want to understand really what it is that these groups want and need, and then we try to explain the value proposition of joining Toastmasters and being a Toastmaster. The sponsor could also be involved with a demonstration meeting. We just had a demonstration meeting today for a club looking to form in Miami. And our two sponsors that we identified were a big part of the demonstration meeting, bringing Toastmasters to life. What's a demonstration meeting? It's exactly what it sounds, confrere. It's exactly what it sounds like, confreres. We simply put on a meeting to demonstrate to these prospective members what an actual club looks like. And now that we're in this virtual, crazy pandemic world, it's easier than ever to get these prospective members to visit one of our clubs and tune in virtually, whereas prior, they had to make sure they could logistically arrive to a physical location. Let's take advantage of the quirky circumstance we're in now, and we could really provide these prospective members with a forum to checking out Toastmasters prior to forming a demonstration meeting. And finally, the club sponsor could help with the trainings. When we get a new club formed, they need newly chartered club officers, and the club sponsors could really help orient those new leaders into the Toastmasters world prior to them getting the opportunity to attend a Toastmasters Leadership Institute. Club sponsors have an enormous opportunity to serve in these capacities in order to ensure that a club goes from I'm considering Toastmasters to we're in it, we're signing the paperwork, here are the dues. How do you qualify as a club sponsor? You are a Toastmaster in good standing. You're alive and you've paid your dues. And a club qualification, in order to charter, we need a total of 20 members at a minimum, in which case a minimum of 17 of them are brand new Toastmasters. This means that you could have dual or reinstated members as a part of a chartered club, but you can't have a club that charters solely with dual or reinstated members. You will need brand new Toastmasters that are involved in order to charter a club. And as long as the club has individuals that are committed to joining, they've submitted their application, and the payments have successfully been processed, the paperwork and the financials are in order, this club can actually charter. Now, those are the qualifications. You as a sponsor are a Toastmaster in good standing, and the club qualifies as soon as it's submitted its paperwork. All of our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, and Toastmaster says you are a newly chartered club, to which case you have successfully served in the role as a sponsor. Speaking of completing those charter documents, if you're interested in becoming a club sponsor, it would behoove you to familiarize yourself with the charter paperwork process and the application documents. There are 6 documents, and the Constitution at the end is split into 2, so there really are 7. 2 of the portions are submitted directly online. The rest are compiled in a separate file, and we actually mail that off or email that off to Toastmasters to review. In the process, and I will talk about at the end, you're not alone as a club sponsor. I, as the club growth director, and my team are going to be there with you at every step along the way. But as a club sponsor, you will have the ability to meet with the prospective club to actually go through these documents. Also, once they fill out the documents, you could review these documents, and you help ensure that they're submitted on time and they're submitted accurately. What does it look like to be a successful club sponsor? You are supporting a prospective club into successfully chartering, and you are an integral part of the chartering of a new club. As the club growth director, I am going to ensure that anyone that is interested in sponsoring a club is trained in a similar form like this, and they are prepared with the responsibilities at hand. After a club has successfully chartered, I will then follow up with the club to ensure that the sponsors were actually a part of the process. Every once in a while, somebody's name is listed as a sponsor, and when we contact the club indicates we didn't actually get to know this individual. They weren't really there for anything. We never heard of them. I've never heard of them before. We're not just going to put names down to get credit. We want to make sure that if you're in this role serving as a sponsor, you've actually helped out the club chartering. And we are going to make sure as a district team, the club growth team, I will make sure that if anyone is in the role as a sponsor, they've actually served in that capacity. That way, no one is just getting credit for something that they didn't actually do. Now that we've chartered a brand new club, now what? Oh, this is a perfect time to do those poll questions, Anthony. I kind of blew it on that one. Okay, so I'm going to ask 3 questions before we go into being a club mentor. The first question is going to be, who here has been a member of a newly chartered club? So how many members of the audience was a charter member of any club before? Take about 10 seconds. Were you a charter member at any Toastmasters club in your Toastmasters career? Okay, let's go ahead and close that poll and see what we get there. Wow, nearly 50% of the audience here has been a charter member of a newly chartered club. That is a truly tremendous accomplishment. And the reason why I asked that question is because now I want you to think about what it was like being that charter member. Perhaps for some of you, this was your first ever Toastmasters experience. Do you remember who your sponsors were? Do you remember who the mentors were? Do you remember who the district leaders were at that time that really stepped in and helped teach you the way? I'm seeing some people nodding, and I definitely want this to come out in our question and answer and discussion. But 2 more polls. One of them was what we just covered in being a club sponsor. This question is, who here has ever served as a club sponsor before? And I fully described what a club sponsor was prior to this, so you should know exactly what this means. About 5 more seconds. Have you ever served as a club sponsor before? Perfect. Go ahead and close the poll. Okay, so the majority of us have never been a club sponsor before, but we do have either former club sponsors in the building that have successfully served in this role. Thank you so much for the poll. So now that we've chartered the club, now what? The club mentors come into play, and I'm just going to cover the responsibilities before I ask people. I'm sure you could figure out the question that's coming next is who has served as a mentor before. But what does a club mentor do? They ensure the club is strong and fully functional. And they confirm officers understand their duties and have the tools that they need to perform them. That's fairly ambiguous, but that's what the club mentor does. They step in once the club has officially chartered, and they are there to ensure that they have the resources that they need and they're having successful club meetings. Final poll, and thank you so much, Anthony, for doing this flawlessly. The final poll is, have you ever served as a club mentor before? About 8 more seconds. Have you ever served as a club mentor before? Okay, we can go ahead and close it out. Let's see what we got. It's about the same. Almost a quarter of the audience has served as a club mentor before or is serving in that capacity right now. And about 3/4 of us haven't. This is great. Thank you so much, Anthony. This is great because this shows us that some in the room have done it before, and some of us are considering doing this in the future. And that's absolutely great. I really hope those that have said yes to any of those poll questions at the end, I would love to hear some of your thoughts and experiences as you've served in that capacity. Let's go through now what some of the opportunities are for you serving in the role as a club mentor. Just like before, you also have the opportunity to share your expertise. For those that have been charter members before and had quality mentors that were actually a part of that club, you know how integral these individuals were or are into the sustainability and success of your club. When I first joined Toastmasters, I vividly remember those mentors being at every single meeting, serving as an evaluator, answering questions that we had, showing us the way for all the little details that we take for granted as Toastmasters that maybe have been around for years and even decades. You also have the ability to translate values and strategies into productive actions. So you could teach them how to do something and show them how they can do it themselves. You also have the opportunity to prove yourself as a valuable leader. Being a mentor is an incredible opportunity for you to really serve as a proud mama or papa bear for a club and see them really learn Toastmasters and do it the right way. Another opportunity for you to invest in the future of Toastmasters. It also gives you the opportunity to obtain fresh perspectives. Every once in a while, when we do something over and over and over again, we almost become desensitized to what it is that we're doing. And sometimes when we take a step back, almost like when talking to a child, sometimes they just ask you such a question that you didn't think of before, or it's framed in such a way that gives you a new idea. So don't just think about you helping somebody else. You may get a great idea from a brand new member that says, hey, why don't we try it this way? And then you could bring that back to your home club or your district, whatever it is. You also have the opportunity to build teamwork skills and apply your leadership skills in new situations. And oh yeah, I almost forgot. It'll help you earn your Distinguished Toastmaster Award, another way that you could earn that distinction. Some general information about being a club mentor. Requirements versus options. This is critical. As you saw that the responsibilities, it was pretty vague. It was pretty general. In general, you may have gone through something that your club does or that you've experienced that you think is necessary or the way to go. However, we don't have that many requirements with what a club must do. We know that we need formal speeches, table topics, and evaluations. We know we have several roles that people fill. However, we want to be careful when serving as a club mentor. We're still allowing the clubs to develop their own culture within reason. We want them to do things the Toastmasters way, but we don't want to tell them every single thing that they have to do. It's their club after all, and we want them to be imbued to feel like leaders within their own clubs. Now just keep in mind that there are some requirements and many options with having a club and having its culture, and we want to make sure we understand what is required versus what are options, like doing the Pledge of Allegiance or the Sergeant at Arms opening the meeting rather than the president, what have you. There are a lot of options. Having a joke master, a tip of the day, things like that. A lot of options. A lot of ways that we can make the club our own, and we need to let these newly chartered clubs become their own clubs. And like I said, the importance of club culture. We want them to understand the Toastmasters way without feeling smothered, like they can't be their own club or be their own people. And I also want you to think program quality. Are they enrolled in pathways? Are they delivering speech contests? And we also want to think club growth, but not growing a new club from this club, sustainability in membership. We need to make sure that the charter members stick around as long as possible, and we always want to try to imbue new members to join the fray. How do you become a club mentor? You need to be a Toastmaster in good standing, and also the club needs to have successfully chartered. Typically, we identify sponsors and mentors at the same time. You're on the charter documents together, and the transition is seamless. That's what we would like to do, is identify our mentors ahead of time. That way they can join, they could immediately begin in their role right when the club officially charters. What does it mean to be a successful mentor? You are supporting that newly chartered club for its first 6 months to a year. And at that point, from your dedication, they should be ready to go and take the reins on their own of being chartered for about a year. And also being integral to the newly chartered club. Much like what I said with a sponsor, I will be following up, my chairs and I will be following up with the club to make sure that these mentors are active, they are participating, and their names are not just on the documents to get credit. What are some of the resources that are available at your disposal? For those of you that have attended this session, I will send out this PowerPoint so you have these links, but the search feature in Toastmasters International is very handy. The first is there's a general resource library that you may not know of to where you can search and filter any form or document that exists on the Toastmasters International website. It's a pretty good first place to start if you're looking for documents. In addition, there are dashboards with public information about how our clubs are doing. There's also reports that are generated, additional reports that'll even tell you these are clubs that need coaches, or these are prospective clubs that are being brewed within your district. Specifically for this presentation, I took components of 3 separate presentations and combined them into this mad dash that I attempted here for this session, thus encouraging each and every one of you to take on these roles in the future or advocate that they are completed in the future. There are PowerPoints and PDFs specifically on the page for coaches, sponsors, and mentors, and these are them just broken out separately. I hope everyone's writing down these URLs. I'm just kidding. You'll get this all and you'll be able to click on them in the future. Several documents that we need. Again, those are the charter documents there. And in order to charter a new club serving as a sponsor, you want to make sure you're familiar with these materials. I'm seeing that I have the red. I will wrap up now, I promise. The resources that we have, not only do you have those forms and things on the website, there's a club growth team here to support you. We have club coach chairs that'll help get you trained as a club coach, or anyone else that you know that wants to be a club coach, and we'll follow up with you when you're in that appointment. And we have several team members that are responsible directly for growing new clubs and also retaining our members, bringing in new members. I'll share with you their contact information as well. That way, if you have any questions for me or the team, you can get this done. And finally, for each of these, you're working in pairs. I didn't mention this, but per club, each club could have 2 coaches, 2 sponsors, and 2 mentors. Therefore, it's my prerogative to ensure that we have pairs that are assigned. That way you could work in tandem, and lighter, many hands make for lighter work, whatever that expression exactly is. Finally, I'm going to be sending out an interest survey, much like was distributed in prior years, that is going to get some information if you are interested to serve in this capacity. That way, when we have clubs that are looking to charter or are eligible for coaches, we can get you appointed as efficiently as possible. And I also want to recommend that you contact your area and division directors. To conclude, just like the theme, you could be unstoppable. You could be heroes, like the late great Uncle Ben Parker from Spider-Man said to Spider-Man at one point, with great power comes great responsibility. As Toastmasters, you have the power and the responsibility to make a difference. And finally, you got to have fun. There's an article that Toastmasters International produced about the importance of having fun within Toastmasters. And I guarantee you that if you have fun through being a coach, a sponsor, or a mentor, you could make a major difference in your district. I will yield back the rest of my time that I do not have to you, Anthony, and I know now it's probably the point where we go into a general question and answer, but I'll turn it over. That officially concludes my presentation.